Hi, I am Rami Rosses, and I am a Palestinian.
I am Adam Alfia, and I'm an Israeli. And this is Lines in the Sand, Lines.
Honest conversations between a Palestinian and Israeli.
There you go. And
Yeah,
as tradition, we hug it out. Okay.
Because just like we hope for love and peace amongst our people, Adam and I have always had love and peace.
And respect.
And respect, yes. That's probably the most important thing. Love, peace, and respect.
There you go.
I mean, if you have love and respect, then you probably have peace.
Not always. Just ask my wife.
All right, well, just give you a little bit of background about what Adam and I are trying to do here. Is Adam and I, I'm a Palestinian American. My parents were born in Jerusalem, married in Jerusalem, immigrated here in the late 70s. I have a lot of family that's still there, my aunts, my uncles, my grandmother in East Jerusalem, and then I have family in Gaza. And, Adam is a friend of mine who I've known for a few years. We're friends. We do business together, and we've had these discussions about what's going on back home because we feel that I think we can communicate. And Adam can tell you a little bit about his background and give you some insight about where he comes from. So in a way, we want to kind of try and show people how we can communicate without the aggression.
Right. And I think that if more people can see that, we can get along, then they maybe, there's a lot of unrest right now all over the world, especially where we're from. But, I think a lot of that is also, driven by media, et cetera. And people think that we're, mortal enemies and will remain mortal enemies. So I think maybe we can open the lines of dialogue and, have people see my side, your side, our side.
Yeah.
And, maybe find a solution one day. I was born in Israel. I moved here when I was 7 years old with my parents. My parents and all my family eventually all moved back when they retired, mostly to Tel Aviv, and most of them are there. My dad's still here. My mom passed away in Israel, unfortunately, during COVID, not from COVID. But nonetheless, I have a lot of family over there. I try to go back every year. Growing up, every year, summer, we'd go there for about a month, and it was a highlight of my year every year. So, I have a perspective that a lot of people, Americans who have never been, as you do, don't really have any idea of what it's really like day-to-day living in both, Israel proper, Tel Aviv, West Bank, Gaza, et cetera, and hopefully we can shed some light and open some lines of communication.
And one thing I will tell you that, our people live different lives over there, but, I appreciate the beauty of East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. And I always tell people that it's the most beautiful place in the world. And the beauty of it is in Jerusalem, there is people living side by side, praying side by side, shopping side by side, eating side in peace.
In peace,
right?
Yeah.
In peace.
And in Israel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Firsthand experience when I go and visit. We've gone and eaten it in Tel Aviv or in Israeli restaurants. Me and my family, and
nobody messes with you.
No, there's. Just you see things like that, and you know that there's hope, right?
Right.
And this all stems from, and this is where it, I think obviously, we've both done research. It's where does this all start?
Right. And where will it end?
Yeah.
So, we talked about having 4 different parts of this podcast, this initial one, and we're going to have many more, hopefully. But we're going to start off just a introduction like we're doing now. I do have some questions for you before we get into the 4 sections that we discussed. A, the history of the region and of the people.
Yeah.
What led to the current conflict, the actual current conflict, and we're going to talk about some solutions.
Yeah.
Proposed solutions, impossible solutions, etc. So, I'm going to ask you some questions that I myself would like to know, and so would the audience. Where do Palestinians currently live? Because, there are 2 sections of quote unquote, the Palestinian territory compared to the Israeli territory when it was first divided in 1948. And correct me if I'm wrong. You have Gaza on the west of Israel, with ocean front, right below Tel Aviv, and then you have the West Bank, which is on the east side of Jerusalem. Correct?
Yes.
And those are the two areas, and both those people are Palestinian.
Yes. Those are, I guess, what would be classified as Palestinian territories: Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem.
So West Bank to you, West Bank and East Jerusalem are two separate territories?
Yeah. I mean, I know that. I mean, they're side by side, but no, they would. I guess from the Palestinian perspective, they're classified as two different territories.
Okay. And in my research, are Palestinians in other places, like in Lebanon, they're Palestinians as well.
Well, I mean, there's Palestinians all over the
right,
world.
but like communities of Palestinians. So, because I read that there was an uprising in Lebanon in the 90s in Lebanon by Palestinians. So it surprised me that there's pockets of Palestinians in other parts of the world, other in the Middle East, other than just the area that we're talking about.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that whenever 1948 happened, and a lot of Palestinians were forced out, they went to neighboring countries. So in part of in part of the research that I did and stuff that I had already known before is, a lot of Palestinians were afraid, and some of them were some families and neighborhoods and villages were getting slaughtered and murdered, and they decided that it's better for us to leave, and they went to neighboring countries.
Okay.
One of them, being Lebanon, Jordan.
Okay. And how many Palestinians are there currently in the world?
Well, in the world, there's about 6 million in Palestine, right?
Yeah, that's I believe so. I have it somewhere here, but yeah, that sounds right. Actually, 5.9.
Yeah. In the world, I didn't search that, but yeah, you have that right.
Yeah, so 5.9 million registered actually with UNRWA, which is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. So they say that 5.9, 2 million of which are in Jordan. So according to them, according to the UN website. And, a lot of people don't know. So in Israel right now, there's 9.7 million people. And out of those, in Israel, amongst Israelis, there's 2.04 million Arabs who live in Israel, have Israeli citizenship, serve in the army, own land, are in government, and have full rights just like Israelis do. And that equates to 21% of our population are Arab, non-Jew citizens.
Okay. And I just want to address a point, and if you don't mind, as I hear it, it brought up. So one of the things that I know from my grandmother who resides in East Jerusalem, she does get benefits from the Israeli government, but she is basically unable to travel anywhere. And in part of the research that I was doing, so the Israelis do give benefits to Palestinians who are living in, I guess it's pre-1948 territories, but they get it only if they don't move, like if they don't leave. They cannot leave. They cannot move around.
Okay, I didn't know that. I know you mentioned before.
Yeah.
That she was getting benefits, and I didn't get any of the details. But
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that.
But we're not trying to kill her.
No. And I'll be honest. Like, I mean, she currently she's experiencing health problems. She's in her.
Where does she go?
Yeah, she goes to Israel, and they're great. And you
didn't finish that. She goes to where?
Israeli hospital. Okay. Yeah.
And they take care of her.
They take care of her. She's 93 years old. She had a heart surgery where they actually, at her age, I guess they couldn't operate. And Mom, I'm sorry if I get the details of the surgery wrong, but they had to go a certain, I think maybe through the leg to get to the artery.
Yeah, my dad had that.
And it was very
not here, not there, here. Yeah,
it was very risky, but She came out in good condition. So listen, yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of people from both Gaza and the West Bank that get treated in Israeli hospitals.
Yeah.
I mean, babies being born, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and listen,
we have great healthcare, by the way. Well, I mean, my sister has MS, and some of the best treatment for MS in the world is in Israel.
Yeah, no, and so that also just kind of makes me think. Okay, well, in these little area, I mean, we're helping each other. I mean, I know there is evil everywhere, right? In these little pockets, whether it's Palestinians, Israelis, Americans. It doesn't matter.
This evil in every parts of the world.
Yeah, right. But it just for whatever reason over there, they control the narrative, right? Hamas makes us look like all Palestinians hate all Israelis, and to a certain extent, at least from my point of view, I get the perception that Israelis don't care about Palestinian lives.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Okay.
So. I just want to put a few notes out there that maybe you didn't know. There are more than 18,000 Gazans. Is that the right way? Gazans? People from Gaza.
Well, I mean, I know how to say in Arabic.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say Gazans.
Gaza. I think that's it. Yeah.
That before this conflict, before October 7th, and this is one of the reasons that we think we got infiltrated, but there was 18,000 Gazans that had work permits to come work in Israel on a daily basis. That it would go through and they would work in shops and restaurants, etc., in Israel from Gaza that were cleared to work in Israel. So it's not like we have an impenetrable border that nobody can get through.
Just curious, is it, and you might not know this, but is it profession based? Like, are only certain people, and I'm just curious, like, is it?
I don't know, but it said in the article that I read that you can apply to work and you fill out a form. They do a background check, obviously, but they had in the system 18,000 people from Gaza that regularly on a daily basis worked in Israel.
Okay.
So I want to put that out there. We kind of talked about the history. I mean, you want to talk? Do you know the history of how your family got to the West Bank and East Jerusalem, etc.?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know the history of how my family got there. It's one of those things. I did research about the history of the people in the area, and one of the things that I saw in videos and that you had brought up to me is that Palestine. I guess what is a Palestinian?
Right, and that was one of my questions. I mean, before it was a region.
Yes,
and we'll get into the history. I got a very detailed history, and I did a lot of research both on Wikipedia and the UN, et cetera, on the history of the region. I've got it pretty detailed out, and we'll get into that. But from what I understand, it was a Palestinian region, just like I have Samaria or other places in America, North America. It's not a actual country. It's like South America. Yeah, I'm from South America, but it's not really a country. So Palestinian it's been around for a long, long time, and we'll get into that. But in the before the 48 British Mandate, the British Empire were colonists. They'd come in and they take over countries, and they needed workers. So there were a lot of workers that came from all parts of the Arabian Peninsula to work in what is now, Israel, Palestine, etc. And when they moved there and stayed there, they became Palestinians. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't. It's not like they were born somewhere as Palestinians and moved here and goes, now I'm still Palestinian. When they moved, they became Palestinian.
Yeah. No, and I've read the same information. I did research as well, and yeah, there's at the end of the day, yeah, it was people that moved there, but they became a people of that land.
Right. Yeah, I understand. And look, your home is everything. So when you put your flag or you put your tent down and you go, I'm living here, and then somebody comes later and goes, no, you're not. It's hard for everybody. So we'll get to that later. But I do want to ask you. What I asked you last time was about a refugee, because like my kids, I was born in Israel. My kids identify as Jewish because that's how I raised them, but they're not, if they met somebody. So if you met somebody, if you're in Italy on vacation and somebody goes, what are you? You would say Palestinian.
Yes. I always
see my kids would not say Israeli. They would say I'm American. My dad's Israeli and my mom's not. and even if we're both Israeli, I think that you would find a mixed bag from people saying, yeah, I'm Israeli because both parents were, and it's a small country. And maybe that's the identity that your guys are, identifying with. But I don't think that my grandkids, so if I'm Israeli, my wife was Israeli, I had a child that was born in America, and they married another maybe Jewish, a spouse, their kids wouldn't identify as Israeli. But you, Palestinians, for the most part, do.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I think that's part of our culture, right? We're just so tied to who we are, and also think about my parents were born in, both of them were born in 1954, so they were kids when this was basically at the infant stages of this conflict. And when you're growing up as a child and you're constantly in,
what are there? Because I asked my dad this. My dad was born in 47, 46. My mom was born in 47. It was before the British Mandate. So I don't know if you've asked your parents what was their passport?
No, they had a Palestinian passport. Well,
are you sure?
No. I'm sorry.
Because my dad doesn't know.
No, that's.
He was only 2 years old when it changed.
I'll ask my mom.
We'll make a note about the passports. What passports that people have?
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I'll make a note. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, that's a good question because there are some Palestinians that have Palestinian passports, and then a lot of them I know were revoked, and then
by who?
By the Israeli government. Like it was no longer valid. I mean, they don't just come and take it, but
Yeah. Well, only not valid in Israel, or not valid anywhere. Because people travel.
Yeah.
Not a lot. But it's not easy to get in and out of. Admittedly, but your parents moved, right?
Yeah, and my parents, American citizens, so they travel with their American passport.
Well, your parents were born where?
No, in Jerusalem.
Right, so their passport when they left.
You mean when they were traveling from there? Yeah, I've never asked my mom that. I'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, what passport they got here on.
Because one of the things that I have a problem with is the whole refugee thing. I understand that you're a refugee when you're there because you were displaced, but once you move somewhere else and you call your home, you're not really a refugee. And I looked up, I Googled, what is a refugee? And refugees are people who have fled war, violence, conflict, or persecution and have crossed an international border to find safety in another country.
So I will agree with you to a certain extent. Like, I don't think I'm a refugee. I don't think my parents are refugees. But I think the people that stayed there and were displaced or forced to move out of their land, I think those people can still be considered refugees.
But let's say, for example, Gaza and the West Bank made peace with Israel tomorrow, and they have whatever it is you want, build a thriving economy, everything's perfect, and that's their home. They've been in Gaza for a long time, right? Or the West Bank or in East Jerusalem. That's their new home. At what point are you no longer a refugee? Because everybody has been moved from somewhere to another place.
Yes.
Even the first, the people came on a Mayflower, they left because they didn't want to live under, sovereignty of the king. So they left. They could say, I left because I could no longer live in the place I was. So are they refugees?
No, but I think if we were truly given the ability and the power to rule ourselves, then it would be different. Then, I would agree with you. Then if we had our own independent state, then yes.
Okay. And we'll get into that. But I'm just trying to figure out, because a refugee is, to me, is a crutch and a, what's the term that they use? Somebody that needs help and is a victim. That's the word I'm looking for. Because refugees fall under the victim mentality.
Well, the Palestinians are a lot of victims there.
I understand, and I'm sure we'll debate that. Do you consider Israel an apartheid state? Because that's a word that's
it's thrown around a lot, and
could we want to define apartheid?
Yeah, go ahead.
Apartheid refers to the implementation and maintenance of a system of legalized racial segregation in which one racial group of deprived or deprived of political and civil rights. Now, being that I told you there were 2 million Arabs with full citizenship in Israel, and you've seen it. You've seen Arabs in Israel. You were there. Did you get treated while you were there any different?
Well, they do treat me as an American.
I mean, what, did they ask you for your passport?
Well, in certain situations, yes.
Well, I mean, border crossings, but nobody's coming to you in a restaurant and saying, hey.
But like, they treat me. I mean, and here's the thing. I am 100% Palestinian Arab, but I don't necessarily look it. I mean, I light skin, blue eyes. So in fact, when I would go to like the Dome of the Rock and to pray, they would ask me, they would prevent me from going in because they thought I was white, and then I'd have to, and then they would
So your own people.
Yeah, well, no, not my own people. It was the Israeli who are guarding the area, and they would prevent me from going in, and they'd ask me for my passport, and it's an American passport, and then I'd have to have one of my family members come and talk to him, and say no, he's with us, yada yada, this and that.
But they don't let Jews in there.
Well, I think they weren't letting Americans in there.
Okay.
They weren't letting non.
But it was an area for the Muslims.
Yeah, well, it was the holy site. Yeah. But now I do know that they do let some people in there because I've had friends that have traveled there that were able to get in, and just as tourists. But for whatever reason, he literally told me, no, you can't go in there.
Right. But for them, like in Tel Aviv, I mean, Israel proper. I'm not talking about the areas where there's a bunch of conflict, East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, all that. Israel proper is not. I mean, you see so many cultures.
Yeah, but
Russians, Ethiopians, and we don't treat them any different. They have full rights just like everybody else.
Yeah. Now I will just to address your question, and if apartheid is discrimination against the people, even though there's 2 million Palestinians with citizenship, they are treated differently. They are segregated against. They are and we can address that. But you just asked me if I think,
not when I've been. I mean, I've been there 30 times.
Well, see, that's the difference. You are in Israel. You're not in Palestine.
No, okay, but look, I mean, and we'll get this another thing we'll get to later in our solutions, etc. But my point is, Mexicans in Mexico can't just come over here and do whatever they want and then go back. I mean, we do have borders for now, obviously under the current administration. That might not be the case, but for the most part, countries have borders. Egypt doesn't let anybody from Gaza in, right?
No, they're not currently, no.
Right. So I'm saying every country has its border and says, this is your place and you can't come into ours, and vice versa. Now, we'll get into the politics and all that stuff, but for the most part, you can't say, well, you discriminate against me because I came over across the border.
But
because you're not citizens of Israel. I mean, the people from Gaza are not citizens of Israel, and just like we're not citizens of Egypt, we can't go to Egypt whenever we want.
No, but once you're there, if you're a citizen of that nation, then you shouldn't be discriminated against.
You're not.
But the Palestinians.
I'm not talking about there's 2 million Palestinians in Israel that are full citizenship. I'm talking about Arabs.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, because this is what a lot of people get confused. So there's Arabs, right? But all Arabs are not Palestinians.
No.
But all Palestinians are Arabs.
Correct.
Right. So there are Arabs who are not Palestinians that have citizenship in Israel. Muslims that don't consider themselves Palestinians. They could have come from Egypt. They could have come from Jordan. They could have come from a lot of places. They just are there recently. They have been there for a long time. They just don't consider themselves.
I don't know any Arabs that are from Jordan or Egypt. I mean,
you got Druze
that are living there.
I mean, you got Druze. That's another Muslim sect that's not necessarily Palestinian. You also have because people from Iran don't consider themselves Arab, but they consider themselves Muslim, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Persians.
Yeah, there are a lot of Persian Jews too, right?
Right, of course, yeah. So I mean, it gets very, because Americans see all of us as Middle Easterners. Mm-hmm. I get asked all the time, "Oh, are you Palestinian? Or are you from?" When people ask me, when people tell me I'm from Jerusalem, when I ask them where they're from, that means that they're not Israeli. They were born in Jerusalem or whatever it is. Yeah.
Right? But just to address because I did do some research on the apartheid, because that's it's a pretty damning word, right? And are you familiar with Human Rights Watch?
No.
I mean,
I can tell what it is by the name.
yeah. I mean, they did a report on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the treatment of the Palestinians by the Israelis, and they determined it an apartheid.
Right, but no, I'm talking about Israelis' treatment of Arabs. There's a difference. We have 2 million Arabs that are non-Palestinian in Israel as citizens, that are in our government, that are voting along with us, that they own land. I mean, we have Ethiopians that have full rights. So,
But those are Ethiopian Jews, no?
well, but there's still a different. I mean, so there's Israelis, there's Jews, there's Israelis that are Jews, there's Arabs that are Israelis. So there's all sorts of different mishmash of cultures and identities, et cetera, in there. But you can come to Israel and become naturalized as we have Arabs who are Muslims in our army. So, I mean, we would never let that happen if we were an apartheid state.
Now, how does that happen? So you have Muslims
they become citizens.
And they're allowed to serve in the IDF?
Yeah. They're required to serve in the IDF.
They become citizens.
Full citizens.
So a Muslim, and again, I don't know this, so I'm so
and you can research it. We'll put
So a Muslim, Arab, and you're saying not Palestinian,
right?
Living in Israel, Palestine, or I guess it would be living in Israel proper, is allowed to become a citizen and serve in the IDF
and be in the Knesset, which is our Senate.
Okay.
I do want to talk about, because you're pretty Americanized. I partied with you, so I mean, I know you don't keep all the laws as.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you. I mean, I consider myself a Muslim. I'm proud to be a Muslim, but I also I do believe that my relationship with my faith is something that I hold true to myself. And the last thing I want to do is be perceived as a hypocrite to my people or people, because I can be a great Muslim, but I might not be the perfect Muslim for somebody else. So I've always kept my relationship with God just between me and Him.
And just to clarify, you and I believe in the same God.
Same God, yeah. And that's another thing that people, I want people to understand.
Yeah, Allah means God.
Yeah. And for Christians, the same thing. We all believe in the same God.
That was my questions. And have you been to other Muslim countries?
Yeah. So we have a house in Egypt, in Cairo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so we can get a couple of things out of the way, and you can agree or disagree, but I think we should agree. In Israel, when you were there, I mean, you know that women have equal rights. Women, freedom of religion, obviously, because there's a bunch of religions there. Gay freedom and freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. A lot of Muslim countries, the majority, if not all, censor a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically Islamic countries, and
49 of them, by the way, I looked. So, I mean, there's a bunch of Islamic countries.
And, that's the Islamic countries. There's no separation between church and state.
Right. Yeah,
So basically.
And a lot of times it's military rule.
In some of them, yeah. I mean, some are more lax than others.
Well, the more religious they are, the more military rule they
exactly.
have.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know. I mean, I see the queers for Palestine that are always, for some reason, on TV.
I saw that for the first time today. Honestly,
I saw a guy that was stripped down. He was a transvestite, and he was like a Latin guy, and he was free Palestine. I mean, in Gaza, if you're openly gay, what would happen to you?
Well,
I don't.
Listen. I mean, that's a good question. And
what do you think?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a good thing, but I don't think in Gaza they're killing people for being, and I haven't heard of anything like that happening. Again, in the Muslim culture, it's not.
It's very frowned upon.
It is frowned upon.
I mean, you can be openly. You could be gay. I don't know about being a transvestite or openly gay and being able to express whatever it is you want to express. Whatever's happening is happening behind.
Yeah, but males do have different relationships there, and I'll tell you one of the first things that I remember when I was visiting Palestine when I was young is, we'd go to the coffee shops and you'd see guys kind of walking through the streets holding hands, not because they were gay. It's just that it's a brotherhood.
I
brotherhood
actually
they have.
experienced that in India. I was in India in the mall and they were holding pinkies.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand all that, and it's a very male dominant culture. So there is a bond with males, but not homosexual.
Yeah.
But anything that happens there is happening behind closed doors, and you can't be openly gay. You shouldn't be openly gay. And
I mean, I would agree with that. Yes.
okay. I want to talk about a little bit about the different groups of Islam. So there's Sunni, which is a little bit more relaxed on the definition of the Quran, which is what you are, right?
Yeah, Muslim. Yeah, Sunni. Yeah,
Right.
yes.
And then there's Shiite, which are more of the radical.
Shiite are the literal translate. Right. Yeah.
So, and there are passages in the Quran that are not friendly to non-believers. And I think that's where the jihad comes in, right?
Well, yeah, I guess that's where you're interpreting the die and go straight to it. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're either a believer and you convert, or you're what's the word that they use? Infidel. Right. So it's either convert or die. And literally. Now there are, I mean, admittedly in the Old Testament, there are a lot of crimes that you can be stoned to death, adultery being one of them. Obviously, that's in there. We can't take it out.
We don't practice progressive over time, yeah.
Right, but the Shiites might look at the literal translation of the Quran and take it to the full extent of world domination. If you're not with us, you're against us type of mentality.
Yeah, but I mean, those aren't the people we're dealing with in Gaza.
I'm just saying that there are that. I mean, it's bad for your culture, for your religion, right? To have those people out there.
Well, I'm not saying Shiites are bad for being Muslims, but they interpret the religion a little bit differently.
I mean, when they're, when they kill people in the name of God and yell Allah Akbar, it's not just, I'm not just talking about our region. I mean, there's a lot of Muslims killing Muslims all over the world, like right now.
Yeah. A Muslim should not, there's no justifying killing people in any religion, in my opinion.
Right.
If we are in war and I die in war, that's more of the, jihad.
Right.
Okay.
You're a martyr.
Yeah. That's why you see.
And what's the deal with the virgins?
Well, I mean,
is it 72? Is it 40?
I think it's 40.
40? I mean, why would you want more than?
Why would you want more than 5? I don't know.
Why would you want more than none?
You might be able to handle more at that point. You're up there.
I've been with a few virgins, and it's not all it's cracked up to be.
But so that's why you see all these innocent civilians, these children, these innocent civilians that are dying in Gaza, that are not Hamas, that are being called martyrs because they're innocent and they died in a war, and so they are going. That's the jihad. They're going straight to heaven.
Well, who's calling them martyrs? I mean, it's not regular Shiite Muslims that are calling them. It's
any Muslim. I mean, they died in war. They're innocent.
So anybody that dies in war, whether they're battling or not, in your religion across both sides, goes to heaven.
Innocent civil, yeah.
Okay. I mean, innocent civilians. Okay,
yeah, innocent. Right. I mean, those little kids that are getting, what's the death toll? Like we're at 6,000-7,000 kids. Those are all martyrs. Those are all kids that had no. They had.
Now I do have. I did research on the numbers as well, and more than half, and I think it was the stat I read was 60% of the kids that they say have been killed are under the age of 18, but they are fighting age for the cause. So if a 17-year-old is part of Hamas and he dies, they're considering him a kid. and this is just what I've read. I mean, obviously, I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
That's at a point where,
and I'm not splitting hairs. It's
yeah. But for every one 17-year-old that you read about, and this is just different channels that we're viewing, I will show you hundreds of dead kids and babies that even, your worst enemy would look at those. Like, I cry for my people every fucking day, and I'm sorry but I don't care if I saw,
I agree
if
with
I
you.
saw a million, if I saw thousands of dead Israeli kids, I would cry. I mean, it just breaks my heart. And I saw a girl the other day in these videos, and I can't stand to watch them sometimes, but I saw a girl that looked just like like my niece.
right.
Broke my heart. And I'm not talking, like, if a 17-year-old's fighting, he's fighting it. You can throw terrorist here, terrorist, but is his sister,
Right.
is his sister a terror? Is his, so
Yeah.
I understand the point of view, but I do feel that the Israeli community as a whole, just maybe justified is not the proper word, but I guess rationalizes the killing of innocent people by tying them somewhere to terrorism. If the terrorists lived in the penthouse on the top floor, then everybody deserves to die.
Okay, and we'll get into that. Yeah. I don't want to. And by the way, when all this happened on October 7th, I want to acknowledge that you did reach out to me when this first happened, and reached out and you apologized for this is not the way.
Yeah.
For a path to peace, and I really appreciate that.
No, and it really, because I care about, I have relationships with you and a lot of people that are close to you, and we've talked about this is not the first time we're talking about this.
Right.
We've been talking about this for a while, and just to see something like that happen, and it makes. And part of it breaks my heart because the whole world is going to think that all of us are like this. And that's one of my pet peeves. And I know you don't, right. I know you don't think we're all like this. I know that.
I mean, you feed me. So Rami actually does my meal plan every day. So if you want to get rid of me.
And I do wish, and I do hope that there's people that can communicate with each other. I reached out to you and apologized, and you weren't the only one I did that to. And I said, hey, this is not how we move forward. And I'm sorry that this is happening, to your people, and part of that is like, nobody deserves that. And then, and I'm also thinking, well, shit, now what's going to happen to us?
Yeah. And I've had friends say, well, you're going to stop ordering food from him? I go, why? He goes, well, what's going on? I go, what does that have to do with him? So, I mean, people try to, put it under one umbrella.
Yeah.
So, with that segue, I want to get into the history of the region. So, like, for example, a lot of people says, well, the Jews were recent inhabitants of the area, and the Bible documents the history. Did you watch a video that I sent you about that?
I did, and it was very similar to some. And I did a lot of research, and I because here's the thing, it's hard to see what is bias, what is propaganda, what is this, what is that.
Well, I mean, the Bible.
Well, the Bible, yes.
I mean, so we've been around for 3,000 years, at least in that area. I mean,
now one thing I did read, and maybe you can just make sure we're on the same page here. Israel is a people. Like originally, it was the followers of Israel. It was a tribe, right?
Right.
So
12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
And the area was
Judea.
Judea.
Yeah.
Judea,
Okay.
correct. Right.
But there was never and again, not that it's map, but there was never an Israel on any map, and it was the Israeli people. Okay.
And in Judea.
In Judea.
And Judea came from. I mean, that's where the word Jew comes from.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't say, well, what do you have to do with Judea? Well, that's where our name comes from.
Yeah.
The Bible mentions Jerusalem, our capital, 660 times, and in the Quran, and I don't know if you looked this up, it doesn't mention it at all. I don't know if you looked that up, but I googled it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Israel, the word Israel is mentioned 2,507 times in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Islam was founded in 610 AD after the death of Christ. Does that sound right to you? So So that's 1,400 years ago.
And Judaism is the oldest religion, right? Before Christianity?
Correct. Well, I mean, Christianity came from
Yeah,
Judaism.
exactly.
Jesus was Jewish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and just for people to know, Jesus was part of the Israeli government. And he believed, because Jews, unlike Christians and Muslims who want to convert people to their religion, Jews don't want to convert anybody. It's, you're born by your mother. So if your mother's Jewish, you become its lineage. Now you can convert. It's much harder to convert to Judaism than being a Jew. You have to go through a bunch of, learning and studying, and, and rabbis have to approve you to be a Jew. So,
your wife, she had to go through all that?
yeah.
Okay.
So she converted. And for my kids to be considered Jewish. So if I go to Israel and I want them to get passports, they ask, okay, who's your dad and who's your mom? And if her mom's not Jewish, they can deny her to become an Israeli Jewish citizen. You can still become an Israeli citizen, but not Jewish.
Okay.
So the rabbis have to, certify that you're Jewish. But back to my, Jesus was preaching Judaism, and he wanted to go get converts. And that's really where we splintered off. Jesus had his 12 disciples, and they said, let's go spread the word of the Bible. And the Jews said, no, we don't want to convert people. And he goes, well, I'm going to go convert people. And he converted them to Christianity unknowingly. I mean, Christianity during Jesus' lifetime wasn't called Christianity. It was only several hundred years later where his followers splintered from, because they used to pray together in synagogues for the first few hundred years of Christianity, as Jews that believed as he was Messiah and Jews that didn't believe he was a Messiah. The Jews that didn't believe in Messiah are modern day Jews. Jews that did believe in Messiah became Christians. Yeah. Right. And they stopped, and they, I think at the Roman Catholic Church, right around the time of Islam, said we can't practice together with the Jews. And that's where anti-Semitism started, where the Jews, were said that we killed Jesus when we didn't. It was Romans. But that's really where anti-Semitism started, is the splintering between non-believers in Christ, the Jews, and the believers in Christ, the Christians, started. The Christians wanted to distance themselves from the Jews. Mm-hmm. So that's really, but either way, Abraham is both the father of the Jews and the Arabs, right? Abraham had a son, Ishmael, with his wife's maid, Hagar, who was a Egyptian. Mm-hmm. His wife at the time could not conceive. So he had Ishmael, which is the father of Islam, right? The Arabs, rather. So he had a son, Ishmael, who fathered a great nation. According to the Bible, it says both of your sons will father great nations. Ishmael, the Arabs, and then Isaac, who finally had a child with his wife Sarah 13 years later, named Isaac, who is the father of the Jewish people. So that's really, we're stepbrothers.
Yeah, yeah, and we believe a lot of the same things. I mean, our religions are we're much more similar than
different.
Well, exactly.
From our heritage, and the Bible says, "Be fruitful and multiply." And I think Ishmael did a much better job, because y'all have 2 billion people, and we have 16 million people. I did the math; it's 118 times more.
You're talking about Muslims, not Palestinians. Yeah.
Well, Arabs, Muslims, and I mean, so you have three major religions. You have Muslims, which is 2 billion right now. You have Christianity, which I don't know the number, but it's bigger than Muslims. Mm-hmm. And then you have Jews, which make up 0.02% of the, or 0.2% of the world population. And then we existed in that region for thousands of years, 1,500 years together in that whole Judea, Arab countries, side by side. We didn't always get along, but we weren't really fighting about land. I mean, people were we're both very nomadic.
Yeah, exactly.
We're moving around all the time. Now, the Jews historically have been expelled, as have Arabs and Muslims throughout history. Hey, we don't like you over here, move over there. So historically, we're always moving. There's, as I think I mentioned before, 49 Muslim countries, 1 Jewish one. We talked about Palestine being a region.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
because I thought about this because, and I think obviously you addressed it. It all the anti-Semitism stems from Jesus, right?
Christians, not really Jesus.
Well, Christians, but I mean the death of Jesus and all that. But so do you think that's carried through time?
Yeah,
and that's because Jews are very quick to point out anti-Semitism, right? Which I get it, I understand, and I started to think, okay, well, why do the Jews feel attacked? Like, what is it that people think they're is so bad, and it all stems from.
Well, so I have a lot of non-Jewish friends, and one of them asked me when we were talking about the whole conflict over the weekend. He goes, "You know what? I really don't understand why people don't like Jews. I try to do research on it, and I can't find a real answer. And I think it's because we really keep to ourselves. Well, there's several reasons. There's the culture of it, because we keep to ourselves. We don't really like outsiders. So traditionally, and I'm not saying now, but traditionally, to protect ourselves, we couldn't be dispersed all over the city because we would constantly get attacked. So we kept very, very tight-knit communities.
Tribe mentality.
Right, together to protect ourselves, right? So we kind of stayed out of the way, didn't want to be in the spotlight. But one of the things that really started around that time when Christianity splintered and Catholicism was born, Catholics cannot charge Catholics interest.
Oh, yeah.
So what they did was, he goes, hey, we'll get the Jews to lend us money, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So what they did was, hey, Jews.
Same with Muslims, no interest.
Right, you can't charge a Muslim interest. So, and I'm sure it was the same thing. Hey, why don't you guys lend us the money? Once the Jews, because people don't always pay back in time and whatever it is. So once the Jews amass a certain amount of wealth, the easiest way to get rid of your debt is to get rid of the Jews. So it was a very easy way to tell if the economy was bad for a leader to say the reason you're poor is because the Jews have all the money. So they said, let's get rid of the Jews. And it was easy to get public sentiment behind it because, I can get rid of my debt. It's kind of like all these guys that are going to college and saying, oh, what I need to do to not pay my student debt back? Get rid of it. I mean, I'm not saying they're.
Yeah, no, but I get same metaphor. The Jews are the Amex, right? I don't want to pay my Amex bill.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can shut down Amex, I'd have to pay it. Go ahead, shut it down. Yeah. So, I mean, we get kicked out because we were money lending, and that's how we got into the banking profession. And a lot of people don't know the reason why Jews are very involved in diamonds and lawyers and doctors is because they're professions that we can get up at any time and leave without inventory. Like a sack of diamonds I can put in my pocket and it's carried wealth. If I'm an attorney or a doctor, I have my knowledge in my head and I can start up and shut up shop for being an attorney or being a doctor anywhere.
Okay.
I don't need fancy. I don't need. I can't be a furniture salesman.
If you're getting kicked out of a
program, yeah. So if all of a sudden the citizens turn against us, we can get up and go. And I'd have to. I mean, if I'm a furniture salesman, I'm shit out of luck. How am I going to move my furniture, right?
Yeah.
So we gravitated towards industries that we can easily leave at a moment's notice
and have value in the next place.
Right. So I'm not going to go into. There's a lot of. And I don't want to spend time going into like the destruction of the temples, etc. But I'm going to get all the way into, when the United Nations. So a lot of people think that Jews came in and kicked. We just came in there and kicked everybody out of their place and said, "Okay, get out." So 1947, November 1947, the partition plan went into effect. In May of 1948, but it was originally proposed in November of 1947 by the UN to partition it into two different lands for two different people, the Jews and the Arabs. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So the Jews didn't come in there and saying, okay, give us this land or give us that land. The UN split up the land, and it is what it is. This is your land and this is your land. Jews who were living in the Palestinian lands moved out or were kicked out, whatever it was, and ended up in the land that they were given. And settlements that were in the new Jewish land were kicked out and asked to be and move somewhere else. And I know you sent me a video about Dalit, the Plan Dalit, which was during that Independence Day War. So in 1948, the day that Israel was declared a state, both the Arabs that were inside and the surrounding 5 countries attacked Israel because they did not want Israel to exist. They didn't want an Israel. They didn't say we didn't have enough land. They just said no, we don't want the state of Israel to exist.
Well,
So correct me if I'm wrong.
well, no, the Palestinians did not want to give up land, right? I mean, for the longest time
but we were there too.
well, yeah, for the longest time we were living side by side, and the Israeli people would buy land
Right.
from the Palestinians, and that's a difference between living side by side with somebody, selling them land, working with them, farming, all that kind of stuff, and
Right. Right, but then the UN said this is y'all's land and this is y'all's land.
but again, it's like,
We didn't make up the lines.
well, I get that, but
And you can't have a country where you're drawing little circles around settlements and goes, okay, this is. I mean, you got to have some sort of.
yeah, a third party comes in and divvies it up. It doesn't mean that you have to be happy about it, right?
Right.
What did you do to lose that land? You did nothing
Okay,
wrong.
but also the Jews that were living in the newly formed Palestinian, or the Arab. It didn't even say Palestinian. It said an Arab state and a Jewish state. According to the UN, they never used the word. We're going to do a Palestinian state, and they use the word Arab. But nonetheless, the Jews that were there moved to go. Okay, we got our own land. Great. I mean, we've been moving around forever. So have you. But you guys, and I say you guys,
Yeah.
the people of the time said, no, we're not moving, and they resisted.
And what happened when we resisted?
Well, we won.
Well, no, but so part of and I did a lot of research on this because, how did it get so bad? Are you familiar with the Jewish National Fund?
No.
Okay, so that was the national fund to acquire land from the Palestinians, and
Before 48 or after 48?
it was in 48.
Okay.
So Theodore Herzl, who was the leader, Herzl. Okay, so you are familiar with him?
Yes.
Okay, so he is
He's the father. Well, he's not the father of Zionism, but he was the first leader in Israel during that time.
And since you brought up Zion, let's define Zionism. Zionism. Do you want? You probably. I mean, I've done a lot of, but you can.
Zionism is only the simple explanation is for there to exist a Jewish state, for the right to exist as a Jewish state. That's it. Just like people believe that there should be United States of America, we believe that there should be a Jewish state for the Jewish people.
And part of what I read was part of the reason that the Americans have always had such support for the Zionist movement. Maybe not so much, but back then was because a lot of Jews moved to the States back after World War II. So they a lot of them ended up in New York and on the East Coast, and they became voters in a sense. And you might not have been a Zionist in the States, but you supported the Zionist movement to give your people land, a home. So, and I think it was Teddy Rose, I might have the presidents wrong, but he said, I don't have 2 million, or however, I might have the number. He's like, I don't have this amount of Arabs voting for me, because there wasn't that many Arabs in the States. He's like, so I'm only concerned with supporting the Jewish voters that I have here in the States. So that's why the Americans supported Zionism, and that's just multiplied over time.
Right, but I mean, in all fairness, is 49 Arab countries. It's not like we're going in there and saying, hey, we want to take over everybody. We were given a piece of land by the UN, right? The UN gave us the land. And we're just trying to settle it.
You can't justify taking something from somebody.
Well, we didn't take it. Well, it's like somebody stole your car, in your eyes, and then took it to auction, and some guy went to the auction and paid $20 and got your $40,000 car. Are you mad at the guy?
Well, I mean, not exactly. I think the metaphor in that sense would be, hey, you can have his car, go take it.
Okay, I mean,
it's not going to an auction.
Well, let's say a bank foreclosed on your car wrongfully and gave it to another guy. It's not that guy's fault.
Yeah, no, but you're removing the
But you're also getting, what you're forgetting is you got a car. We gave you a different car, right?
Well,
Y'all had land. Y'all just didn't. I mean, if we're going to talk honestly,
yeah.
you guys got just as much land as we did, other than the desert that we got. It was like 55-45.
Yeah.
But you guys got land. You weren't happy with the land you got. Let me rephrase that. From everything that I read,
We weren't happy with giving up, basically power and control of the land.
But you got additional land. You got land that you didn't have before. I mean, no, you didn't have. Actually, it wasn't anybody's land at the time. It was Britain's.
Yeah.
So we all lived back then, before 48, we all lived in Britain's land, right? Mm-hmm. And Britain said, hey, we're giving up the land and we're giving it to y'all. You get this and you get this.
Okay.
So it wasn't really ours. We might have owned little plots of land, but it wasn't the Arabs' land or it wasn't the Jewish land. It was British land. And they can carve it up any way they want. So it's back to the car metaphor. It's like if we were driving a car that had a front part of the car and a back part of the car that belonged to a friend of ours, and he's letting us borrow it. And then he goes, hey, I'm giving you all the car. I don't want it anymore. You get this one. You get that one. And then one people say, well, we were sitting in the front seat of that car and we want to remain sitting in the front. He goes, well, you have another car. Just sit in that front seat. He goes, no. I was here before. I want to stay here. You still got a car. You're just butthurt about somebody else now living in your place, which is understandable. But that happens to people in the history of time.
Yeah.
That people are.
We're talking about ancient history. This is basically
75 years ago.
No, I know, but 70. I mean,
and you guys are still complaining about it.
Complaining about it because it's gotten progressively worse.
I know, but but you guys could have taken the land that you got and made it into a paradise. Nobody was stopping you from that. We never kept on. We did not want you to have land.
Okay, so.
And I didn't want to, this is part of the solution part, but
yeah.
I'm just talking about history. The Jews never complained about the land that we got, ever. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. You got our own land? Wonderful.
Well, because
from Britain. Because we didn't take it.
Yeah,
are we agreeing on that? We did not take it.
Well, it was given to you, yes.
And it was given to you. And land was given to you.
It was, we already had it.
No, it was Britain. You can't.
No, I know. Okay, but you're talking about now. It was a British territory. Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're not talking about cars and homes. We're talking about people. We're talking about families.
People move. I mean, you guys weren't born there.
People move voluntarily. Okay, people move voluntarily.
I mean, we're going to put this map up on the thing, but we have the map and how how Palestine was, or how the British chopped up the area into two states. I mean, you guys. I mean, this is a pretty big area right here. It's not chump change.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree.
This is from the 48 partition plan.
Yeah.
Now I understand if you lived here and they had said no, move here because you got to uproot yourself. But if the Jews were living here, we have to move here. I mean, looking back at it, all the bloodshed, all that we've been going through. If they said, hey, this is what the future holds for y'all, if you don't accept it. I know it's hindsight is 20.
No, but you're right, because I think it was I might have to look this up again, but I think it was Abbas who said in hindsight, we should have been happy with the land. And again, I remember reading something about that, and I've been cramming as like a test for the last few days. But I believe, yes, in hindsight, no sound person would say, "Oh no, I'll take it." Fuck, we'll take it. No, if nobody wants to lose lives, and I do believe that, back then, knowing what we know now, of course, we could have made a beautiful land out of it.
You still can, and we'll talk. We'll talk about that. Now, hold on. In the Israeli Declaration of Independence, this is right out of, and it hasn't changed. It's still to this day. We appeal in the very midst of the onslaught launched against us now for months to the Arab inhabitants of the state of Israel to preserve peace and participate in the upbuilding of the state on the basis of full and equal citizenship and due representation in all its provisional and permanent institutions. We extend our hand to all neighboring states and to their people in an offer of peace and good neighborliness and appealed to them to establish bonds of cooperation and mutual help with sovereign Jewish people settling in its own land. The land of Israel is prepared to do its share in a common effort for the advancement of the entire Middle East.
Okay.
That is radically different than the PLO charter and the Hamas charter.
Well, what is written and what your leaders said are two different things.
I mean, this is the Israeli.
Yeah.
I mean, if you write it down and that's your position, doesn't matter what you think. If you write it down and announce to the world, people can point back to that and goes, no, you're not doing what you said in the Israeli. So from after the 48 war till 1967, there was not a lot of conflict. There's not a lot of things going on. And, I researched like all the conflicts until 1967. There was really not a lot of, there's some skirmishes, but not a lot. You guys had your land. Now in the 48 war, we did win some land back and we gave some of it back for peace. But Egypt, after 1948, the Jews wanted the land from the partitions. The Arab wanted no Israel. The Arab rejected it. We got attacked. 2 ceasefires were brokered, did not work. Fighting continued until 1949. We gained land as what happens in war. Egypt agreed to manage Gaza, and Jordan agreed to manage the West Bank, and the fighting stopped. But at the time, Israel did not occupy any of the land that the Palestinians were living in. The Egyptians managed Gaza, and Jordan managed the West Bank, and we were completely out.
We lost that in the war.
You lost what?
Control.
Well, not to us. I mean, you can look this up. Israel had zero control over Gaza and over...
Well, no, I'm saying eventually, yeah. I mean...
Well, I'm saying, but for 20 years, after 1948, 49 is when the fighting stopped, the Palestinians could have said, you know what? Lick our wounds. We screwed up. We shouldn't have fought. We got land, not as much as we had before.
Well, we screwed up with trying to defend our...
But so from who?
Yeah, but here's the thing. When you guys...
From who?
Well, I mean, from...
British gave us the land. They said, this is your country now.
And I think you're being too casual about turning people into refugees, taking.
But so did we.
Huh?
But so did we.
So did you what?
When they partitioned the land, there were undoubtedly Jews that lived in the land that was given to the Arabs.
Yeah, no, but your goal as a people was to establish a homeland.
Right.
So whether you live,
isn't that the goal of every people?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But so whether you lived here or here, you had to move from here to here. You still got what you wanted, right? You got your land.
But so did you.
You got a country.
But you didn't have a country. You're living in British land. Yeah,
but I mean, again, I think you see the one problem I have with the arguments of the Israeli people is you pick certain points in history to justify actions when you wouldn't do it if it was the other way around.
But we were attacked. I mean,
well, yeah,
on 48,
I don't disagree with that.
And they didn't say, you guys get different land. They said, we don't want there to be a Jewish state. Well, it still says that in every charter of every organization that controls lands where your people are has the call for no Israel.
Okay.
Is that am I incorrect?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, so at this point, yes.
I mean, we'd have to guess about what those people want.
But that the same was coming from the Israelis. It was all secretive, right? Like I never got to this Herzl quote. He said, we shall try to spirit the penniless, because the Palestinians were of a poorer class, the ones that were selling the land to the Israelis, or to the Jews at the time. We shall try to spirit the penniless Arab populations across the border by procuring employment for it in transit countries. Like, we want to push the Palestinians out, all denying it employment in our own country, okay, Israel. Both the process of expropriation in the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly and circumspectly. Again, what your declaration said versus what these people what the goal was to do. And to follow upon that, Zionist, and this is from the book Bitter Harvest, Dr. and again, might just pronounce it wrong, Dr. Adair, Zionist commission member, He was told of the inquiry, and he said that there can only be one national home in Palestine, and that a Jewish one, and no equality in the partnership between Jews and Arabs, but a Jewish preponderance as soon as the numbers of the race are sufficiently increased, meaning we want more Jews than Palestinians. He then asked that only the Jews should be
in Israel.
Yeah. So
Y'all do whatever you want.
Yeah, but Israel, again, Israel didn't exist, right? People, we were living there, and they came and said, okay, well, now this is, we
were given this land.
Yeah. And then only Jews should be allowed to bear arms. Okay. So again,
but it's our country. Go to your country. You got your own country. Go over there, and we got this.
Yeah, but the issue is, this happens even now, where your written law says one thing versus what your actual leaders say. And there's a video, and we probably won't get to it today, but I'll send it to you of yours. It's the I'll just get the name, his position. He is
his current statements. I mean, right now we're at war. You can't really.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is, like, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, he went on national television and said that the Palestinian lives are not equal to Jewish lives. He literally he went on TV and said that. But the point is, this is not new. This was how it was from the beginning. Whereas there was, in a way, a sense of this was given to us, so now we're entitled to it. Or you always.
Well, it's if my grandfather dies and gives me a building that he owns, and I want to go in there and kick all the tenants out, it's my right.
Yeah, but
it's now my building. My grandfather said you can live here. Now it's my building. He's gone. Get out. Now I'm not saying it's a good position, but it's my right.
I just think the metaphors don't add up.
I know, but I understand.
We're talking about lives.
We're not killing people. We're just saying.
Oh no,
get
you
out.
killed a lot of people doing that.
Well, you guys attacked us.
No. This is like a lot of.
I read the plain dalit that you sent me, and it said anybody that has arms, that bear arms, fight them and kill them, and if they're not bearing arms, kick them out. That's what it said. It's the first.
Yeah.
It did, right? But it's our land.
It was your land because it was just given to you,
right? And y'all attacked us.
But it was.
Look.
So this is the conflict, right? This is the conflict. Him saying, "But it's our land," but I'm saying, "Yes, but
it's our land now."
It was. There you go. So just to simplify,
no. It's our land now, and you just try to kill me. So get out.
It was.
Because y'all did try to kill us, right?
Well,
as soon as it became our land, you attacked us. Am I wrong?
You
and 5 other countries.
Well, no. I'm talking like before the war. Like
the war happened the day we were independent, the day of.
Yeah, no.
The day that the UN said, "Okay, Israel, here you go. Palestine, here you go. Congratulations."
I'm talking on because I read some things about like villages and like the Israelis saying that they left voluntarily, but the Palestinian people actually they would slaughter a family, and the other people would the other Palestinian people would be in fear and leave, and the Israelis would say, "Oh, that's voluntary leaving." And we're like, "Well, no, we left out of fear."
I know, but all that happened right. We weren't killing anybody until the first day that we got our country, and you guys and you guys.
Well,
and the people attacked us.
Yeah, and again,
there's
the conflict. There is the conflict, right? You got your country, which yesterday was our country, which was our land.
No, it wasn't. No, it was British country.
Okay, again,
but it's not. You can't say it's our country. We didn't come in there and kick you out of a country that was Palestine.
And I haven't done the research, and I don't think you've done this research, and we can research it. But how many times has all these provinces that were once ruled by
it
France,
changed hands like 30 times?
But does it ever escalate into this a conflict like this?
Because we're in modern times, and other countries now are involved.
No, but this has happened over history, right?
Right. But now we have weapons of war.
So
now
now
changes everything.
Yeah. So
because when people came in, like the Syrians and the Romans, and they kicked Israelis, Jews out. I mean, we didn't have weapons.
So here's one
now
of my
we do.
here's one of my arguments. So now you utilize,
And the Holocaust happened.
yeah. So now we're in modern times, okay, but yet you want to claim land from centuries ago because it was yours.
We didn't claim it. We were given.
No, but what I'm saying is,
wait,
but-
you either abide because Arabs and the rest of the world go to the UN to make decisions for them, right?
Okay.
It's a governing body.
Yeah.
Right? You can't say, well, govern us for this, but I don't like this decision. I'm not going to live by it. At the time in 1948, when the UN took the British mandate and split it up.
But why that land? Because that's what you wanted. That's what you felt was.
We didn't have any say in it. We've never even been on the Security Council of the UN.
No, I know.
We have zero rights in the UN. Trust me, the UN hates us.
No, but what I
we
mean
didn't
is,
mandate anything.
It's not like there was a talk. Oh, should we give them Palestine? Should we give them this other territory? No, you wanted.
Well, I mean,
You wanted that land because you felt it belonged to you.
No, if there's any place that we belonged, any place in the world that historically we've been tied to for 3,000 years, it's that area.
Okay.
Now, if they would have given us the Gaza Strip and you guys got the other way around, no problem.
No. But what I'm saying is, it's not like.
So you don't think that at all, that the mentality at the time was, we don't want a Jewish state in this area.
No, I do agree because we were living side by side. The Zionist movement, I think, started in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
And the
18, I actually have it here. But go ahead.
And the whole purpose of the Zionist movement is to procure
1897.
Yeah, to procure basically Israel.
To have a Jewish homeland.
Yeah, but that Jewish homeland.
Right. I mean, we're tied to there. We're
from centuries.
No, we've been there. We've been there for thousands of years. Jews have been coming back to Israel.
Yeah, but it was Judea centuries ago.
Right. And
Yeah.
and I think I told you this
So
before. In 600, after the destruction of the Second Temple, the Romans wanted here. 135 AD, 60 years after the Romans destroyed the temple, and the Romans changed the name from the region from Judea
to Palestine.
Syria, Palestina.
Yeah.
Okay. Literally Palestinian Syria. And this the name that it was changed to. It was intended to disconnect the Jews from Judea.
Yeah.
It was a PR move to say, if we stop calling you Judea, it will no longer be theirs. But changing a name of a place, if I stop calling you Rami, you're still Rami.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But my point was, you said we're in modern times for one argument, but then the other thing is,
I'm saying in modern times because now we have the ability to defend ourselves.
But was 1948 not modern?
It was.
Yeah. So in 1948, you're saying that you're entitled to the land that you had thousands of years ago?
The UN said that the Jews are here, the Arabs are here. We need to have a country for both, to make a Palestinian state and a Jewish state. We can't have one state that has both people all the time, so we're going to divide it. And they divided it.
Let me ask you this. Why couldn't we have both lived? This literally just.
It's also saying, why is there Mexico in North America and the U.S. and Canada?
No. But what I'm thinking is,
why can't we just have open borders?
Well, why couldn't it be? And this literally just kind of just popped in my head because you just said, okay, well, Palestinians live there and Jews live there, so why not give them each a state? Why couldn't it have just stayed? Instead of us living in Israel right now, why couldn't it have just because it was? And I think I understand. Maybe psychologically it might have been different for my people if okay, well, it's still Palestine.
I know, but 6 million people just got slaughtered in the Holocaust.
I agree. I understand, and not to downplay
and
that.
The world said the Jews need a homeland. They have a lot of Jews already living here. Let's take this land because if they live together with other people, history has shown that we get slaughtered or we get killed.
Didn't more Jews go to the America than to Israel?
I don't know the numbers.
Okay,
but there was enough to defend ourselves against 6 countries. So whatever amount that was.
Well, it wasn't just you. You had the backing of
No, Israel defended itself on its own in 1948.
Well, I know, but I mean, you didn't just build the infrastructure from nothing.
No, we've been there for a long time. I mean, we had some sort of militia. I mean, building up. And when the the UN started partitioning us, talking about partitioning way before in 47, they drew the lines in 48, May 48.
Lines in the sand.
Lines in the sand. So my point is, I mean, it goes down to, we didn't take your land. We were given your land. Agreed?
You were given that land because you wanted that land. I get what you're saying, how you didn't take it from us, but
I know, but when somebody's, so you can say somebody's starving and they you give you a hamburger and you go, great, thank you. And you go, well, you wanted that hamburger. Well, you gave me that hamburger. I was hungry. So yeah, I wanted that hamburger, but I would have taken any hamburger.
No, well, no.
We would have taken the left side of the country.
Oh, no. But no, I get that part, but you wouldn't have taken, let's just say, that the British, Algeria was a British province. And let's just say they said, hey, you can have the whole country of Algeria.
But we weren't in Algeria. We were there in Israel. There was pretty much the same amount of Jews and Arabs at the time in that area. My dad used to make us, my brother and I, when we go eat, and let's say we want to split a hamburger or a slice of pizza or whatever it is. My dad's rule was, one guy cuts and the other one picks, because I'm going to do as best as I can to cut it down the middle. And so he can pick. He doesn't have a choice. He just picks one or the other. I promise you, if the UN would have said, y'all take this land on the left side and the Palestinians take the land on the right side, you guys would still been upset and said no, because there's going to be Palestinians there. At some point, you got to disrupt it.
I don't disagree with you there. I mean,
y'all did so, which says that we don't want you to have any land in that area, even though we were there, we owned land.
Well, no,
as did you.
We were okay with you having land because we lived
just not anywhere in this area.
Well, we lived side by side for
But having it's still in. I mean, you got to look at repetitive history of no, we don't want a Jewish state. That's still a sentiment, even, and it goes back to my, what is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't, oh no, we'll share. No, you're saying, get the fuck out of our country. We don't want a Jewish state. So there is no, in that chant, there is no two-state solution. There's one state.
Well,
Palestinian state, correct?
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's been a chant for a long time.
Well, yes, of course, because...
So why is that not the sentiment then?
Well,
it's been a sentiment for the last 75 years. We want our whole country, not half, not a quarter, not three quarters, the whole thing.
Well, I think now, if there was a way to be an independent state and country, it just, and this is, we might have to save this for the next episode, but there's the ability to run a sovereign state or nation, and then there is the perception that we are independent by somebody who actually is running our day-to-day life, basically.
Right, but let's take Gaza, okay? Israel hasn't been in Gaza since 2005, right?
Yeah, but again, I think
there's been zero
the definition of literally, nobody, they haven't been in there, but they run Gaza. They run just look now. I mean, let's turn the water off. Let's turn the power off. Let's cut off the. I mean,
do you know why?
Well, no. Of course, I know why. We're at war. We're at war.
No. Do you know why we have that ability?
I mean, I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
It's because all the money that's getting funneled in there is not going towards infrastructure.
Right. I mean, there's zero bomb shelters in Gaza.
Well, here's the thing.
Israel, every single home by mandate has to have a bomb shelter.
Yeah. So
you know why?
Well,
because we're never bombing you unless you guys bomb us.
Well,
we would never, ever, ever throw a rocket into Gaza unprovoked, ever.
Yeah, but
has that ever happened? Just for the record.
I mean, I haven't done the research, but here's
have
the
you
thing.
ever heard of Israel attacks Gaza for no reason?
Are you okay? But I'm just going to use this metaphor. And again, please, I like every life matters to me. And, like I said, like you said, when I saw what was happening to your people before anything happened to my people, I reached out to you, and again, it broke my heart on a lot of different levels, but I throw a rock at you, and again, I'm using a metaphor here. And then I throw a rock at you, a pebble at you, and then you come with a brick and smash my head in. And then you smash my kid's head in, and you smash my mother's head in. I get you having to defend yourself and protect your people. I would expect that of any nation. But at what point do you have to just at least respect the people? And I know you respect me. And I know I have a lot of Israeli and Jewish friends here, but I think, if I'm being honest, Adam, I think as a whole, the Israeli people do not respect.
You're wrong.
Do not respect the lives of Palestinian people.
Wrong.
That's how I feel, and that's how all the Palestinians.
Okay, so I'll give you an analogy back. If you come to me and you shoot at me, right, and you hit me in the shoulder. And the second time I see you, you shoot at me again. So the next time I'm gonna come up with some invention that every time I see you, I'm gonna put on a bulletproof vest. It doesn't stop you from shooting at me. You still shoot at me. Is the intent, your intent, not yours, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Gaza's intent, Hamas's intent, when they're firing the missiles, their intent is to do what? What if they could have their wish? What would be the outcome of those missiles?
Well, yeah, kill innocent civilians.
As many people as they can.
Yeah.
I mean, they would make those.
And again, I don't
schools,
yeah,
hospitals. The intent to kill as many people as they can is there. Whether or not it succeeds is secondary.
Yeah.
It's because we develop technology because we know who we're living next to stop that.
And ability, right?
Right.
Like, I mean.
But just because you don't have the ability, every time, if you're saying that, every time you shoot at me, the fact that it doesn't hurt me or sometimes hurts me doesn't change the fact that you're trying to kill me. And then if I say, I'm done with this guy, I got to kill this guy because he'll eventually succeed in killing me, and then I shoot at you and you put up a baby in front of you to block the bullet, that's not on us.
Okay.
And even if I know you're going to do that, if right now we went to war with Gaza, and which we are, but let's say Gaza came out and the army started shooting at us and we're holding up babies to protect ourselves, Hamas wouldn't have any problem killing through that baby and shooting me. But we would have a problem with that.
It's not that literal. We're not holding baby. I mean,
But when
you're blowing up buildings that have people like
we give family. Them. Come on, you don't think that Hamas is blocking people from living? They have interviews of people that they've captured that said Hamas won't let us live.
Well, I've also read.
Have you read that?
I've also read that the Israelis are strategically trying to push all the people down south.
Right. Because Egypt won't let them in.
Yeah, but
Egypt has said you will not have one Gazan come in Egypt. Actually, yesterday they started letting people in.
What's Israel's intent to push everybody down?
Because we're going to strike buildings in the north.
Okay.
Because that's the closest trajectories of all the rocket. Most of the rockets are coming from the north. The rocket launchers, they've shown aerial footage of the rocket launchers right next to a UN school, like right next to it. How we can't be that precision targeted where we're shooting a rocket and hitting a rocket launcher. Plus, when we hit the rocket launcher, it explodes. There's shrapnel flying everywhere. We can't help that. Look, there has to be a revolution in the Palestinian. If Palestinians don't want them to be led by a terrorist organization, do you consider Hamas a terrorist organization?
Yes. I mean, yeah, they are.
If you don't want that, just like nobody wants, if we have a government, I mean, governments gets overthrown all the time, maybe not so much in modern times, but throughout history, if a people goes, those people do not represent my best interests, they overthrow them. It happens, I don't know, I can't remember where, I think in Romania, where they overthrew the president and they banished him. It happened in Libya with Gaddafi. If a people don't want people that are doing that to represent them. And we can have the debate on how free the elections was. In 2007, I think it was, Israel left in 2005. Not one Israeli or Jew anywhere in Gaza. Hamas gets into power, however that happened. Mm-hmm. At some point, when you see that Hamas is throwing rockets, there's going to be bloodshed from a civil perspective of a civil war overtaking Hamas at all costs. You guys should be killing Hamas.
Well, there was a war, and Hamas won it against the PLO group.
Right. Yeah, it was PLO and Hamas. And yeah. So it's not our fault that they're in power. It's not our responsibility. It's our problem. It's y'all's problem. But right now, there's going to be, if I can predict what's going to happen, looking out 5, 10, 15 years, hopefully we eradicate Hamas. Hopefully you guys want us to eradicate Hamas. Hopefully there'll be an outpouring of sympathy and compassion from the entire world about what happened. And Gaza gets rebuilt, but get rebuilt with proper government. But that's in your hands. We can't govern for you. I mean, there's going to be, and you can see it right now, a lot of bloodshed. Innocent lives, they're going to, but it's because they're fighting from, and I know it's a congested area, but it's a smart move if you're savages to put a rocket launcher on top of a hospital and using, the tunnel systems, 300 miles of tunnels made with concrete that was brought in by the entire world for infrastructure. Instead of building, schools and hospitals and bridges and roads and all sorts of stuff, they're using it to line the tunnels, 300 feet, 300 miles of it under the city, with the headquarters under the hospital. That's like their main headquarters under the hospital for a reason.
Let me ask you, so with all this intelligence, the IDF has no idea where the hostages are?
I think we would have freed them by now.
Yeah, but okay. No,
how we don't have trackers on them.
Well, no. But I'm saying is like, how do you know that you're not killing, these buildings that you're blowing? Or you could potentially be, unintentionally.
My philosophy is, and it's not very popular to say, is you have to fight the war as if the hostages are already a casualty. Because I don't think we're going to be able to rescue all of them, and we're already having soldiers die. It's always, you watch those old military movies where they're trying to save one Marine, and they send 8 people out, and 7 of the Marines die trying to save the one guy. Yeah. Is it worth it?
Well, I see. Here's the thing. I think if you're in the military, nobody should die, but again, those people. The casualties are expected, I guess. So I guess in one of the things that, I questioned, and I know that they went on, like they're on the ground now, right? With such a sophisticated military against.
I know, but now the sophistication is only from far away. Right now it's hand-to-hand combat. We're literally going building to building, checking every door, going into every room, trying to find the tunnels. Mm-hmm. Trying to map out exactly. We had a huge security failure. If they let people run across the border like that, obviously our intelligence isn't as good as everybody thinks. So we do have, at the end of the day, it's people fighting people.
Yeah, and that's definitely I think what we can do. It's probably a good place to stop. With the history, but I think on the next episode we can kind of start discussing what's going on now. And I'll tell you this. It's not just going on now. I was able to listen to a podcast that was recorded 2 years ago, and I kid you not, if I didn't tell you when it was recorded, you thought it was
now.
Exactly. And I could probably find were podcasts around 10 years ago, or maybe just something,
interview,
something. And this has been going on for a while, and we have to figure out how to fix it. We have to figure out how to change it. And the purpose.
Well, the first thing that the people should do is stop saying from the river to the sea Palestine will be free, because that gives us a zero hope.
Yeah,
That's telling us, because we've never, ever saying we do not want your people there, ever. Have you ever heard anybody saying just kill all the?
Oh no, I'm
saying as a national sentiment. Have you ever seen a protest that said kill all Palestinians?
Well, I mean, again, I see stuff that you don't see. Yeah, I mean,
I'm talking about protests where a big group of people saying go in and kill all the Palestinians. I'm saying outside this war situation, where you've seen parades and protests where people are just waking up on a Saturday morning and putting together a march that says, let's go kill all the Palestinians.
No, but again, I think
having in the last 20 years, I was in Portugal for when I proposed to Morgan. I was there with my family. We're in the center square, and there's a huge protest with chanting. We've been together, it says 13 years ago, people on the street, zero conflict at the time, chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And to me, that's, hey, I want you to die.
Yeah. So I think I think maybe, I mean, we're not saying that statement is just, we want our land back, right? It doesn't mean Palestine.
All of it.
Yeah, I know, but it's literally, he's not saying I'm going to slaughter. It's almost kind of like an anthem, okay? But I get what you're saying. I respect that. And here's the thing. I will say this, that I just wish, if this gets to a point where, there's Palestinians who are listening, and, I'm telling you this, the people that I see pulling down it's primarily in New York, pulling down the flyers.
It's all over the world.
Well, yeah, but I just, it's all pulling down. It's not necessary. I mean, we're not going to make progress by spewing hate. And I've never, and you can account to this, I've never spewed hate your way or the way of the Israeli people. The only thing I've ever tried to do is just bring a little bit of awareness to the struggle that my people go through, whether it's a direct result of our actions or your actions, or whether it's
or your leaders,
or it's justified or not. There's people that don't deserve to live the way that they live.
I agree.
And your people shouldn't live in fear. And, neither should, I mean, I posted a video today of because there are Christians in Gaza, and they were in a church, and then nobody deserves to live like that. And if honest conversation between a Palestinian and Israeli just helps other people have honest communication and chat, and listen, Adam, I respect you because, we've chatted before, and you came in with all this research, and it motivated me to go back and just, because for a few years, I would just say, same thing, like we want Palestine to be free. Well, you know what? Let me do my homework. And I appreciate that. And this is what more people need to do.
I mean, you got these people that are completely on the wrong side of, when you're supporting Hamas, I don't care where you're from. When you wake up in the morning, you see your video feeds, and all of a sudden you're saying, I support Hamas. That's wrong. I mean, you're supporting terrorists that came in and murdered 1,500 people. And when you're tearing down people's posters that are saying, kidnapped, I mean, you're basically snuffing out a life that's saying you don't deserve. Yeah.
And I hate that, and it's almost kind of just like, the bad review the one bad review supersedes the 100 good reviews. And, just take it from me, Adam, that there's a lot of good Palestinians out there like me that want nothing more than just to live in peace and want your people to live in peace, because that is a beautiful part of the world.
There needs to be enough of them.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I think at that, that's a good place to leave it. Yeah. And then, we'll do our homework, and we'll come back with hopefully, some more good discussions, and, who knows, maybe me and you can broker peace.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
Hi.